Hi everyone, and thank you for coming back and joining me for math. Today for math we're going to be focusing on time. What we're actually going to be doing is we're going to be building our own clock, which is going to help us complete our some time problems over the course of this week and then until the end of the school year. But before that we build our clock together, I'd like to go over just 4 simple vocab that we've been focusing on that you should know by heart. So you can say each vocabulary word with me, or you can repeat back after me. So clock, which everybody is familiar with. We have time. Now we've been talking about time in 2 different ways. Digital time or analog time. Remember, digital time, sometimes you can find digital time on your cell phone. For those of you that have a watch, some of your watch could be digital. You would also see digital time either on your microwave or your stove or even at the bottom of your TV. And then for analog, we've been talking about some of your watches could be analog, or if you just have a clock in the house. So for example, I have a clock in my kitchen that is analog time. Today we're actually the clock that we are going to be building is going to be based on analog. We've also been talking about the hour hand, which is the short hand, and then the minute hand, which is the long hand. So materials that you're going to need so we can build our clock together is in your packet. You're going to find the worksheet titled Build a Clock. Okay? You're also going to need scissors, glue stick or tape, and then a pencil. So I'll go over those materials again. Remember, materials moving forward from now to the end of the school year, all materials are going to be found in our 3rd packet, which is the packet that was just recently mailed home. The worksheet that you are going to gather from your packet is called Build a Clock. You're also going to need scissors. You're also going to need glue stick, or if you don't have a glue stick, tape will do, and then a pencil. So if you need time gathering those materials, please pause the video here, and then when you have all your materials in front of you, press play, because we're going to build our clock together. Alright, so the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to cut out all of the numbers at the bottom. You can see that they are all enclosed in a dotted line, and also these 2 arrows. We have a short arrow, a small arrow, which would represent our hour hand, and then a longer arrow, which is going to represent our minute hand. So what I'm going to do is with my scissor, and if you need an adult help to help cut out, you can always ask an adult to help you. For some of you, such as like Francesca, Nyanelli, Colin, Carlos, Uriah, you're pretty much good just cutting along the dotted line, but for the rest of you, highlighting the dotted line with like a crayon or even a pen just to help you guide you to make sure that you cut out exactly along the dotted line and not out the numbers. And then making sure that you cut out the long hand and the small hand. So let's take our scissors, and I'm also going to be cutting out my numbers and arrows. So I'm just making sure that when I cut, I'm staying along my dotted line. Making sure that I'm not cutting through my numbers, because you want to make sure that you can read your numbers. We're going to be gluing these along the clock. So I'm going to first cut out the outside of the box. As you see now, all my numbers look like this, and now I'm just going to cut them out individually, making sure that I stay along my dotted line. And as I cut them out, I'm just going to make sure that my numbers are pretty much spread out on the floor and not clumped together. This is going to help me be able to identify them and put them in the correct order around the clock. Make sure you guys are taking your time. Remember, if you need help, don't be afraid to ask for it. If you mess up, you can always just write the number in, okay? So now I'm going to cut out my 2 arrows, but see kind of how my paper's like this? I just want to make sure that I have a straight line across. So I'm actually going to use the bottom of the outline of the clock. So in the end, my clock is just going to look like this. I'm actually going to hang it here so you guys can see while I continue to cut out my 2 arrows. The arrows are a little bit tricky, so I honestly sometimes struggle with this. You might want to ask an adult for help to help you with this. If not, just try your best. That's all that matters. And if you guys are still cutting out your numbers, no worries at all. You can always just pause the video and go at your own pace, and then when you're caught up, you can always press play again. So I have one of my arrows cut out, and then I gotta cut out another arrow. I'm sure you guys are doing a great job. Okay. So once I'm done cutting out all my materials, I'm just gonna put my scraps aside with my scissors. So remember, it's probably easier just to cut off everything on the bottom so your clock is going to look like this in the end. And then we're gonna start gluing. So remember, if you need a little bit of extra time cutting out your numbers, trying to cut out your arrows and you're not quite finished yet, pause the video. Pause the video right here. When you have all of your numbers cut out with your 2 arrows, press play. Okay, so now everybody should have their numbers cut out, their 2 arrows cut out, and a blank clock that looks like this. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take either a glue stick if you have it, and if you don't have a glue stick, tape would be fine. If you don't have a glue stick or tape, you can just use your pencil to write in the numbers. So what I'm going to do is remember when we're building a clock. We're going to build a clock, and the number that's always at the top of our clock is 12. So I'm going to find the number 12, and I'm going to glue the number 12 right here. So knowing that 12 is the center of my clock. Okay? And then we're going to count from 12, and we go 1. So after 12 comes the number 1. So I'm going to find the number 1, and I'm going to glue it here. All of the numbers that we're gluing in here is our hour hand. This is representing our hour hand. So it goes 12, 1, then 2. And we're just going to count in order. So we have 12, 1, 2, and then the next number would be 3. And I'm just going to keep gluing my numbers all the way around the clock. Or taping, and if you don't have glue or tape, you can always write them in with your pencil. So 3, then 4, then 5, then 6, then 7, after 7 comes 8, then 9, then 10, and then last but not least, number 11. Number 11. Okay, so now all of your numbers should be filled in around your clock. So we started, remember, we started at the number 12 and we moved forward. So 12, then we went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, back at 12. All of these numbers here represent the hour, okay? Now what we're going to do is with your pencil, we're going to write below our numbers, and that is going to represent our minutes. So remember, the hour hand is the shorthand. So right here on our arrow, this short arrow is our hour hand. This long arrow is our minute hand. So, for example, if the small arrow was on one of these numbers, it would represent our hour, okay? Now we're going to write below to represent our minutes, okay? So when we're talking about minutes, when the long hand is on the 12, it's 0, 0. That is the hour. If the long hand is on the 1 for minutes, it's 5. So we're going to write 5. And we're going to count by 5s all the way around our clock. So over here for the 2, the minute would be 10. So we have 5, 10, and then we're going to write 15 next to 3. So I'm just writing it on the inside of my clock. If you didn't start writing it on the inside, you could always write it around, but I just thought the inside might just be a little bit easier and you have more room. So we have 5, 10, 15, then 20 next to the 4, then 25, then 30, then 35, then 40, then 45, then 50, then 55. So the numbers that we just wrote on the inside of our clock represent our minutes. And for minutes, we count by 5. So we have 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, back at 0. Okay? So now the arrows. We're actually not going to specifically glue on our arrows, but what I want to do is, because we're going to be using our arrows. So what I want you to do is on the small arrow, I want you to find the small arrow, and I want you to, if you can, you're going to fit the word hour there. So I'm going to write hour here. So hour, where is it? Hour, H-O-U-R. So I'm going to write hour on the small arrow. I'm going to have to write it on the H-O-U-R. So on my small arrow, I wrote the word hour. And now on my long arrow, I'm going to write the word minute. So minute, M-I-N-U-T-E, minute. So I'm going to write the word minute. M-I-N-U-T-E. Okay. So now on my long arrow, I have the word minute. And then on my short arrow, I have the word hour. So that's just going to help me when we start doing time, that when the small hand or the short hand is on a number, that's my hour. And then when my long hand is on a number, that's my minute. And I want you to try to save these. So you want to keep this in a safe place with your clock, because we're going to be using our clock that we just built to help us with time problems this week and then moving into the end of the school year, okay? So what I want to do before I leave to send you off to your next assignment is I just want to go over the clock that we just built along with our vocab words, and then I'm going to give you the next direction on what you're going to be doing for math. So the clock that we just built, all of these numbers that are in black, they're representing our hour. Our shorthand would be on them. All of the numbers that we just wrote on the inside of our clock, which are going by 5s, represent our minute hand, and our long hand would be on them. The vocab words that we talked about today was clock, we talked about time, different types of digital time, and different types of analog time. Right here is an example of an analog clock. We talked about the hour hand, which is our shorthand, and then we talked about the minute hand, which is our long hand. At the bottom of the Google Classroom, there is an additional link that you are going to watch. It's a short video that just talks about the parts of a clock, just to get you familiar again to it. And then later in the week, we're going to be practicing more on time. So that is going to be it for math today. After you complete math, you can have your parents send me, or an adult or an older sibling, just send me a picture of the clock that you built, just so I can check it and make sure everything looks good. And then it's going to be time for life skills. So for life skills, you're going to be watching a Brain Pop Junior video on muscles, answering the 5 questions, and then you're going to click on an exercise video that I left for you to view. And then that would be it for today, and then I will see you all back on Wednesday for our day 25th in our packet. Have a great day, everyone.